through here in my state to even purchase a firearm, and this is statewide, that you have to get a FOID, firearm owner identification, to even purchase the gun. And of course, you can't carry it at all, even if you have that. Then you go through a state and federal background check, and after that, there's a 72-hour waiting period for any handgun, and a 24-hour waiting period for any long gun, meaning a shotgun or a rifle. In my state, you just go into the gun shop and you fill out your federal paperwork, and they call the FBI, and you have your background check completed. Once you're good to go, you're good to go. You're out the door right then and there. And I can tell you, where I am standing right now, there is nowhere near the amount of crime that there is in Chicago, including violent crime. So my question is, what's wrong with Chicago? Why they're seeing that obviously gun control laws are non-efficacious, and yet there's still even today, Rahm Emanuel and other city leaders were pushing for more and more and more controls on the citizens' right to bear arms. Even though statistics say that lawfully possess firearms, people who lawfully possess and legally obtain their weapons, they only commit crimes that 1% of the time. That is very, very low. If you translated it to a motor vehicle, but you have no constitutional right to operate a motor vehicle, you have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms. It's only the Second Amendment in the Constitution. Of course, the Second Amendment protects all the other amendments, including the First Amendment. Can you imagine if only 1% of people who lawfully possess their motor vehicle committed a crime with it? People commit crimes with their motor vehicles every day. Now, given most crimes or infractions that are committed with motor vehicle aren't serious, speeding or running a red light, but often, there are hundreds of thousands and millions of people out who are drinking and driving, especially, this weekend we saw that. And can you imagine if we said, well, it's much more than 1%? Could you imagine if we decided we're going to ban cars because of the actions of a few, or turn it a little bit and say, well, because all these people are drinking and driving, we're going to ban alcoholic beverages. Or, you really ought to think twice about drinking alcohol because so-and-so, over here was drinking and driving and he plowed in and killed a bunch of kids in a vehicle. Well, it doesn't really have anything to do with your drinking because, more than likely it's under control. Just my train of thought. But Chicago, case in point, absolutely proves that the gun control is not an effective policy. It's a joke of a policy. And there's really only, again, one reason why they're out to control your guns, and that's because they want to control the law-abiding citizens. When the government has total control and they have seized the arms out of the hands of the law-abiding citizens, they can control them. And that's why we have the Second Amendment. After the break, we're going to come back and continue discussing the Second Amendment. And I'm going to highlight some videos and some promising things for you. And we urge you to stay tuned, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. This is First Amendment Media, Free Speech Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Garbo. Going to continue talking about the Second Amendment for the remainder of the program, because that is the biggest right that's being assaulted in our society right now. So it deserves a lot of attention paid. Now, one of the biggest issues that's been coming up in the last week is a petition to deport Piers Morgan. Now, what the mainstream media is not telling you is that petition was actually created by a member of Alex Jones from Infowars.com. That's www.infowars.com. A member of his staff. I believe it was Kurt Nimmo. I could be wrong. I am a listener of Alex Jones. I'm a supporter of Alex Jones. I credit him partially with waking me up to the agendas of the New World Order and to the cause of liberty. So I'll get that out there right now that I'm a big fan, and did disagree with the petition to deport Piers Morgan. I haven't signed the petition, although I did make an error in an article that I wrote and some things that I said on the program last time, that this was completely unconstitutional, because now, whether I'm not a constitutional lawyer, I'm not a Supreme Court justice, and that's up to the lawyers to figure that out. But their petition is based in case law. There was a case, and hopefully I'm going to pronounce this correctly. Well, I've lost it. That there was a case back in the 1970s, Kleindienst versus Mandel, which established a legal precedent for foreigners to be barred entry or deported if they espouse anti-American ideologies that are anathema to the U.S. Constitution. That's taken from an InfoWars article from December 24th by Paul Joseph Watson. So I haven't gotten in the ins and outs of the actual case law, but it would be unfair for me to say that they were attempting to deny him of First Amendment rights, as the case law says that he does not have these particular rights. That remains to be seen. That's as far as I'm going to get on that issue. If you feel the need to sign the petition, you may sign the petition, and if you don't sign it. We can all agree, though, that Piers Morgan is a detriment to our society. He is slime and he's scum, and well, maybe he'll leave voluntarily, but apparently, according to several articles, England doesn't want him back, with good reason. I guess it took them 40 years, apparently, to get rid of him. So hopefully it won't take us that long to get rid of him, but the important thing is to prove him wrong, and then you'll have gotten rid by Mike Adams, who is the editor of naturalnews.com. That's www.naturalnews.com. He wrote an article today entitled, "By Calling for Gun Control, You Are Unleashing Your Own Worst Nightmare." And he points out that there are millions of AR-15s, because that's the rifle that's being demonized in our society now, the AR-15 rifle. And it's one of the most common rifles out there. There are millions of these and millions of rounds in the hands of law-abiding citizens, and most of them are not going to give those up. In fact, I think what the article points out that's most important is that gun sales have skyrocketed since the Sandy Hook tragedy. Now, the mainstream media would like you to believe that this is because all gun owners are violent people, and that they want to say, oh, well, that somehow they would enjoy the Sandy Hook massacre, but that's ridiculous. The reason that gun sales have spiked is because it is such an important right to so many Americans, and they're afraid those rights, with good reason, are going to be taken away or at least restricted. And oftentimes an unfair restriction on a right is the same as taking it away, and they're afraid, as am I. So they're buying up. Good luck going into a store, a gun shop today, and finding an AR-15 for at least at a reasonable price. You're probably not going to find them at all. I know my local gun shops here in town are primarily sold out. If they do have one in stock, it would be very expensive. It's supply and demand, folks. It's capitalism. It's not price gouging for the majority of the retailers. But Mr. Adams points out in his article that his friend who owns a gun shop and a tactical range, typically he makes about 10 grand a day in sales. Since the talk, all this new talk of gun control, since the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School, they've seen 1,000% increase in gun sales. That's right, $100,000 a day since the tragedy occurred. Folks, if that shows you how important gun rights are to people, if people are going out and buying guns and buying guns and buying guns, that means to me that these are also people who are not going to give up their guns when the government, if the government tries to take them. Plenty of people are saying, go out and get your AR-15s, go out and get your AK-47s while you can. And that, I think that's that fills me with hope, knowing that there are patriotic Americans going out and buying weapons while they still can, and not giving in to what the media is telling them. That is the most important thing I can impress upon you in this transmission. The last order of business I wanted to speak of was a impressive YouTube video I saw today by Hickok45. And if you're not familiar with, I watch a lot of gun videos on YouTube in my spare time. Hickok45 is he's an older gentleman who has posted over 700 videos, nearly 800 videos probably now online, all about topics, firearms topics. He has demonstration videos. He features many different types of guns, both antiques, new guns, handguns, long guns, etc. And he does cleaning videos, safety instructions. He's a crack shot, much better shot than I am. Very informative guy, very well respected. He has a very nice way of putting things. He kind of makes his viewer feel comfortable, and he's a patriot of the Second Amendment. He's probably been fighting for the cause of liberty longer than I've been alive. In fact, I'm almost positive of that. But he made a great video about the gun culture in the country. And the media bias against our culture. I consider myself to be a member of the gun culture. I'm a member of many different cultures, as he said that he is. I'm a member of the free speech and anti-censorship culture. I'm a member of a Christian culture. I'm a member of standard American patriotic culture. I'm a member of the gun culture. It's a hobby of mine. And I'm going to post a link to that video on firstamendmentmedia.tumblr.com so you can view it. If you are new to guns, if you've never fired a gun, if you maybe think that you are in favor of more restrictions, if you're just curious about the gun culture, or if you're like me and heavily engrossed in the gun culture and want to see a video from a fellow patriot, I urge you to check it out. It will be posted on our First Amendment Media website as soon as I am done with transmission. And I urge you to check it out because it is a very, very informative piece. That's about all the time we have for this transmission. And I hope to be again with you soon. And wherever you are, be safe. Be liberty-minded, be thankful, and most of all, stick with First Amendment Media, and we'll see you next time. Good night.